The diplomatic reception was everything Tam Kang hated about galactic politics. The ballroom glittered beneath enormous crystal chandeliers suspended in midair by anti-gravity fields. Exotic music drifted through the room, while representatives from dozens of civilizations laughed, negotiated, and competed for influence beneath the polished dome of the station. The air smelled of 100 different worlds. Perfumes, alien spices, strange flowers, expensive ambition. Tammin stood near the refreshment table, clutching a glass of water like it was life support. He felt completely out of place. That wasn't unusual. He was a scientist, a researcher, a man who preferred laboratory silence over political conversations. Give him a microscope and an unknown life form to study, and he could work happily for days without speaking to another person. Put him in a room full of diplomats, nobles, and powerful aristocrats, and he immediately wanted to find the nearest escape route. Across the hall, groups of alien elites mingled beneath floating banners, displaying their noble houses and government insignias. Many glanced toward the human delegation. Most quickly looked away. A few didn't bother hiding their amusement. Humans were still newcomers. Interesting, useful, but hardly important. Tommen sighed and reached for another glass of water. Then a voice spoke behind him. A soft voice, musical, beautiful, like crystal wind chimes dancing in a summer breeze. You look about as comfortable as I feel. Tammin froze. Slowly, he turned around and forgot how to breathe. For a few seconds, his brain simply stopped functioning. The woman standing before him looked as though she had stepped out of a dream. She was nearly 7 feet tall, graceful, and impossibly elegant. Her skin shimmered between silver and pale blue, changing subtly whenever the light touched it. Large violet eyes regarded him with gentle amusement. Her long hair flowed around her shoulders like liquid moonlight, drifting as though underwater despite the still air. The gown she wore seemed woven from living starlight itself. Tiny points of light moved across the fabric like distant galaxies. Tammin suddenly became aware that he was staring. A lot. To his horror, she noticed. Fortunately, she laughed. The sound was warm and genuine. Not mocking. Not arrogant. Just amused. "I'm Ariel," she said, extending a long-fingered hand toward him. Her smile widened. "Lady Ariel of House Valenus, if we're being formal." She rolled her eyes dramatically. Though I absolutely despise formality, Tammin's brain desperately attempted to remember how conversations worked. Unfortunately, it failed. Tommen. Brilliant. A world-class scientist, capable of solving complex biological equations. And that was the best response he could produce. Ariel's smile somehow grew brighter. "Just Tammin?" "Oh, right." He cleared his throat. "Tammin Kang." "Excellent." Now he sounded slightly less like a malfunctioning robot. He shook her hand. The moment their skin touched, he was surprised. Her hand was warm. Not cold like polished metal. Not fragile like he expected. Simply warm. Comfortably warm. And impossibly soft. For a second, neither released the handshake. Then both quickly let go. Tammin immediately wished the floor would open and swallow him. Ariel seemed delighted. "You're not very good at these events, are you?" The question caught him off guard. "No, neither am I." Tammin blinked. He looked around the enormous hall. "You?" Ariel followed his gaze. Around them, ambassadors, admirals, noble heirs, and wealthy industrialists were practically competing for opportunities to speak with her. She was clearly one of the most important people in the room. Yet she sighed dramatically. "I've spent the last 2 hours discussing trade agreements, political alliances, and the breeding habits of ceremonial sky serpents." She shuddered. "I would rather be trapped in an airlock." Tammin laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprised both of them. Ariel tilted her head. "There it is. There what is. Your real smile." Tammin felt heat rise to his face. Ariel looked pleased with herself. For the first time that evening, he forgot about the diplomats watching him. He forgot about the whispers. The judgment. The politics. For a few brief moments, it was just a conversation. Simple. Easy. Comfortable. Which was strange, because they came from completely different worlds. She was galactic nobility. He was a scientist from a species many still considered primitive. By every rule of galactic society, they should have had nothing in common. Yet somehow, talking to Ariel felt easier than talking to almost anyone else in the room. Across the ballroom, several nobles noticed. Their expressions darkened. Members of House Valinus did not casually speak with humans. Especially not Lady Ariel. Especially not like this. Neither Tommen nor Ariel noticed the looks. They were too busy talking. Too busy laughing. Too busy discovering that sometimes the most important moments in history begin with something incredibly simple. A scientist reaching for a glass of water. And a stranger saying hello. Just Tommen. I'm a xenobiologist at the human embassy. Her skin flickered to a warm gold color. A scientist? Finally, someone interesting. Everyone else here just wants to talk about trade agreements and territorial disputes. Tell me, what do you study? They talked for an hour, then two. Ariel was fascinated by his work on cross-species biology. He was amazed by her knowledge of Lissaran history and culture. She told him about growing up as the youngest daughter of a powerful noble house, always expected to marry someone chosen by her family for political reasons. He told her about growing up on Earth dreaming of the stars and volunteering for the most remote posting he could find, just to meet aliens. You actually wanted to meet us? Ariel laughed. Most humans I've met seem terrified of anyone who doesn't look exactly like them. Most aliens I've met think humans are barely smarter than animals, Tommen replied. I guess we both have low expectations. She laughed again, and her skin rippled through colors he didn't have names for. A servant offered them drinks from a tray. The liquid in the crystal glasses glowed softly. Lisa ran crystal wine. Ariel said it's traditional at celebrations. Have you tried it? Tommen hadn't. He took a glass and sipped. It tasted like starlight and honey, and something he couldn't identify. It went down smooth and warm. It's good, he said. It's also quite strong, Ariel warned. Especially for humans. Your metabolism processes it differently than ours. But the warning came too late. Tommen had already finished his glass and accepted another. The room seemed brighter, friendlier. Ariel seemed even more beautiful. They moved to a quieter corner, then to a balcony overlooking the spaceport. The city lights spread below them like a galaxy laid flat. They talked about everything and nothing, about feeling trapped by expectations, about wanting more than the life mapped out for them, about the loneliness of being surrounded by people, but never truly connecting with anyone. I'm supposed to marry Lord Theron's nephew next year, Ariel said quietly. I've met him twice. He's perfectly suitable. Excellent bloodline, strong political connections. I can't stand him. Don't marry him then, Tommen said. The wine made everything seem simple. It's not that easy. My family needs the alliance. My mother has been planning this for decades. That's stupid. You should marry someone you actually like. Ariel looked at him with an expression he couldn't read. Her skin shifted through shades of pink and gold. You're very different from other people I've met, she said softly. Is that good or bad? Good. Definitely good. He wasn't sure who moved first. Maybe they both did. But suddenly, they were kissing, and her lips were softer than anything he'd ever felt, and the world spun in ways that had nothing to do with the wine. My quarters aren't far, she whispered. Team Man knew this was probably a terrible idea. He was a junior scientist, she was alien nobility. There were probably dozens of rules and regulations against this. But the wine sang in his blood, and Ariel's hand was warm in his, and for once in his life. He didn't overthink things. Her quarters were in the Lissaran diplomatic compound, rooms that made the entire human embassy look poor by comparison. But Tommen barely noticed the luxury. He only noticed her. The night was a blur of sensation and connection. Despite their different species, their bodies fit together perfectly. She was gentle and curious. He was amazed and careful. They explored each other with wonder, and somewhere between the physical pleasure and the emotional intimacy, something shifted. This wasn't just a drunken mistake. This felt real. Morning came too soon. Tommen woke with a pounding headache and a moment of panic before memories returned. Ariel was still sleeping beside him, her skin now a peaceful silver blue. She looked younger like this, vulnerable. He started to slip out of bed, but her hand caught his wrist. "Stay a little longer," she murmured, not opening her eyes. So he did. They talked in the morning light, soberer now, but no less connected. They both knew this couldn't continue. The social gap was too wide. But for a few hours, they pretended otherwise. When Tammin finally left, they exchanged contact information, though both suspected they'd never use it. Sometimes beautiful things were meant to be temporary. Tommen returned to his small apartment at the embassy, showered, changed, and tried to focus on work. But his mind kept drifting back to violet eyes and shimmering skin, and a connection that felt too real to forget. He had no idea that in 3 weeks, everything would change, that the impossible had already happened. That one night of connection would alter the course of 2 species' futures. For now, he just tried to remember how to breathe normally, and wondered if she was thinking about him too. 3 weeks passed. Tammin threw himself into his work, analyzing soil samples from the northern continent and cataloging local microorganisms. He told himself he had moved on from that night. He had almost convinced himself it was true. Then Ariel walked into his lab without warning. His colleague, Dr. Nar Kim, looked up from her microscope with wide eyes. Placer and nobility did not visit human research facilities. It just did not happen. Ariel's skin was flickering between gray and purple, colors Tammin had learned meant distress. She wore a simple hooded cloak instead of her usual elegant gowns, and she looked terrified. "I need to speak with you," she said quietly, privately. Nar glanced between them, understanding dawning on her face. She grabbed her tablet and headed for the door. "I will be in the break room if you need me," she said, meaningfully. When they were alone, Ariel's composure cracked. She sat down heavily on one of the lab stools. "I am pregnant," she said flatly. Tammin's brain stuttered to a halt. Of all the things he had expected her to say, that was not even on the list. "That is not possible," he said automatically. "We are different species. The biology does not work that way. Lucarans cannot even conceive naturally anymore. You told me your people need genetic testing and medical procedures." "I know what I told you." Her skin flashed red. "But I am telling you I am pregnant, and you are the only person I have been with in 5 years. So unless there is another explanation, it is yours." Damon sat down before his legs gave out. This could not be happening. Cross-species pregnancy was theoretically possible, but so unlikely that no one had ever documented a human case. The genetic compatibility was supposed to be near zero. "Are you sure?" he asked weakly. "I had my personal physician run every test twice. The embryo is developing normally. It shows genetic markers from both of us." Her voice broke. "This should not be possible, but it is." Tammin forced his scientist brain to work. He stood and grabbed his medical scanner from the shelf. "Let me scan you. I need to see for myself." She nodded and stood still while he ran the scanner over her abdomen. The device was designed for xenobiology work, sensitive enough to detect cellular structures. The readings appeared on his screen, and his hands started shaking. There it was, a developing embryo approximately 3 weeks old, showing DNA markers that were definitely human and definitely Lararan. The impossible made real. "Oh God," he whispered. He called Nar back in. She took one look at the scanner readings and sat down hard. "This is going to cause problems," Nar said, which was possibly the biggest understatement Tammin had ever heard. Ariel explained the situation in a flat, controlled voice. Among Lasuran's pregnancy outside approved genetic matches was considered a serious crime. Noble pregnancy outside sanctioned unions was treated as genetic treason. The penalties included loss of title, exile, and termination of the unauthorized embryo. "They will kill our child." Tommen felt cold. "They will classify it as an illegal hybrid and order termination." "Yes." Ariel's skin had gone completely gray. "And they will investigate how this happened. When they discover you are the father, it could be seen as an act of aggression by humanity against the Lyran Empire. That is insane. We did not plan this. We did not even think it was possible. Logic does not matter. Politics does. A human impregnating Lysan nobility will be seen as contamination of our genetic line. My family will be disgraced. House Valinus could lose standing. And humanity's already fragile position in the galactic community could be destroyed." Nara was already thinking through the implications. As a doctor, she understood both the medical miracle and the political nightmare they were facing. "How long before someone notices?" Na asked. There is a mandatory health scan at the next Noble gathering in 2 weeks. They will detect the pregnancy immediately. Ariel looked between them desperately. I do not know what to do. I cannot just end this pregnancy, but I do not know how to protect it either. Tammon's mind was racing. Every human instinct screamed at him to protect Ariel and their child, but he was completely out of his depth. This was not a lab problem he could solve with careful research. This was politics, culture, and power dynamics he barely understood. You could stay here, he suggested. At the human embassy, we could claim diplomatic protection. Ariel shook her head. That would be seen as defection. It could trigger a diplomatic incident, maybe even military response. The Empire does not tolerate nobility abandoning their duties. We need to tell Ambassador Park, Nar said. This is way above our level. She needs to know. No. Ariel stood quickly. The more people who know, the faster this gets out. I just needed to tell you. I needed you to know. You are going to be a father even if her voice broke. Even if we cannot keep this baby. Tammin moved to her, taking her hands. They were trembling. We will figure something out, he promised, having no idea how to keep that promise. There has to be a way. Ariel looked at him with those violet eyes, now shining with unshed tears. You are a good person, Tammin Kang. I am sorry I dragged you into this disaster. I'm not sorry, he said, surprising himself with the truth of it. I am scared, but I am not sorry. They held each other while Nar discreetly looked away. Outside the lab, life on Helios Prime continued as normal. But inside, 3 people faced an impossible situation that could change everything. None of them knew that Ariel's personal attendant, Valeris, had already noticed her mistress's unusual behavior, and none of them knew that Imperial intelligence had protocols specifically designed to monitor noble pregnancies. The clock was already ticking. They had less time than they thought. The ship arrived 3 days early. It was massive, elegant, and impossible to miss. Every species on Helios Prime looked up as the Valinus family vessel settled into the diplomatic quarter, like a silver moon descending from heaven. Tammin felt his stomach drop. Duchess Serena of House Valinus had arrived personally. This was bad. This was very, very bad. Ariel received the summons within an hour. Her mother wanted to see her immediately, privately. I should go with you, Tammin said. Ariel shook her head. She looked more frightened than he had ever seen her. No, let me talk to her first. She might be angry, but she is still my mother. Maybe I can make her understand. But she did not sound like she believed it. 4 hours later, Tammin received his own summons. Duchess Serena wanted to meet him, not at her ship, but at the Valinus estate, a location meant to remind him exactly how outmatched he was. Ence insisted on coming with him. Ambassador Jiwan Park came too, though she looked like she would rather be anywhere else. The 3 humans walked through the estate gates, feeling like prisoners approaching judgment. The estate was breathtaking. Gardens that seemed to defy gravity. Fountains that sang in harmonics no human ear could fully appreciate. Buildings that looked grown rather than built. Wealth and power made visible. They were shown to a private meeting room. Ariel was already there, sitting quietly. Her skin was pale silver, carefully neutral. She would not meet Tammin's eyes. Then Duchess Serena entered, and Tammin understood why people feared her. She was taller than Ariel, nearly 8 feet, with skin that shifted through shades of platinum and ice blue. Her eyes were the same violet as her daughter's, but harder, colder. She wore a gown that seemed to be made of liquid metal, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had never doubted her own power. She studied Tammin like he was a specimen under glass. He forced himself to meet her gaze and not flinch. So you are the human who accomplished the impossible, she said. Her voice was musical but cold. You managed to impregnate my daughter with an embryo that should not exist. It was not intentional, Your Grace, Ambassador Park said quickly. This was an accident born of mutual affection and poor judgment. We are prepared to discuss appropriate responses. Serena ignored her, still looking at Tammin. Do you love my daughter? The question caught him off guard. I care about her very much. That is not what I asked. Tammin glanced at Ariel. She was watching him now, her skin flickering with colors he could not read. He thought about the past weeks, the fear, the uncertainty, but also the moments of connection, the way she made him laugh, the way she looked at their child on the scanner images with wonder and terror. Yes, he said simply. I love her. Ariel's skin flashed gold for just a moment, before returning to neutral silver. Serena studied him a moment longer, then nodded once. Good. That makes this easier. She moved to a table and activated a holographic display. Medical scans appeared showing the developing embryo in detail. My physicians have examined my daughter, Serena said. The pregnancy is progressing normally. The fetus shows no abnormalities. It is healthy and viable. She paused. It is also unprecedented. Visor and genetics have been controlled for thousands of years. Natural conception is supposed to be impossible. Yet here we are, Your Grace. Ambassador Park tried again. We understand this creates difficulties. If termination is required by your laws, we will not interfere, though we request consideration of the circumstances. Termination. Serena looked at the ambassador like she had said something stupid. Why would I terminate a healthy pregnancy in my direct bloodline? The room went silent. Ariel's skin flared bright pink. Mother, Ariel whispered. Serena turned to her daughter. Did you think I would harm my own grandchild? Yes. This situation is complicated. Yes. It creates political problems. But House Valinus did not rise to power by running from problems. We solved them. She turned back to Tammin. I have been watching humanity's development with interest. Your species is young, chaotic, and genetically diverse in ways we lost millennia ago. The Lyceran Empire is stagnant. Our population barely grows. Our genetics have become too controlled, too narrow. We are dying slowly, and most nobles refuse to see it. She gestured at the hologram. This child proves that human genetics can integrate with ours naturally. That is valuable. That is potentially the key to our survival as a species. You want to use our child as a political tool, Tammin said flatly. I want to protect my daughter and her child, Serena corrected. But yes, I also want to use this situation to benefit House Valinus, and potentially save my entire species from slow extinction. The two goals are not exclusive. She pulled up another display showing legal documents. I propose a formal bonding between you and Ariel. Not a secret arrangement, but an official union recognized by imperial law. This will legitimize the pregnancy and make the child a legal heir. There will be opposition, she continued. Conservative nobles will see this as contamination of our bloodlines, but with my support and the evidence of a healthy hybrid child, I believe I can force acceptance. What is the catch? Nar asked suspiciously. Serena smiled slightly. Smart question. The catch is this. One hybrid child could be dismissed as an anomaly, but multiple children from the same human sire with different Lyceran mothers would prove the viability of such pairings beyond doubt. She looked directly at Tommen. I propose that you bond not only with my daughter, but with me as well. In Lysaran culture, powerful families sometimes create compound bonds to strengthen alliances. You would become part of House Valinus, bonded to both the heir and the matriarch. The room erupted. Ambassador Park started talking rapidly about human cultural norms. Nara was staring at Serena like she had grown a second head. Ariel's skin was cycling through colors so fast it looked like a light show. Tammin just stood there trying to process what he had just heard. Bond with Ariel and her mother. Become part of an alien noble family. Have children with both of them. It was insane. It was impossible. It was actually a way to protect Ariel and their child. I need time to think about this, he said quietly. Serena nodded. You have 1 week. Conservative nobles are already organizing opposition. The longer we wait, the harder this becomes. She looked at Ariel. Show him the estate. Let him see what he would be joining. Let him understand what House Valinus can offer. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. For what it is worth, Tammin Kang, I would not make this offer if I did not believe you worthy of it. You accomplished something our best geneticists said was impossible. You treated my daughter with genuine affection, rather than seeing her as a political tool. And you stood before me without fear, when you had every reason to be terrified. Those qualities are rare and valuable. Then she was gone, leaving chaos in her wake. Ariel looked at Tammin with those violet eyes. I did not know she would propose this. I swear I did not. He believed her. Serena clearly made her own decisions, and did not consult anyone. What do you want me to do? He asked. Ariel's skin flickered gold again. I want you to be happy. I want our child to be safe. Beyond that, I do not know anymore. Tammin had 1 week to make a decision that would change his life forever. No pressure at all. The week passed in a blur. Tammin spent his days at the Valini estate, trying to understand the world he was being invited to join. The wealth was overwhelming, but what struck him more was the weight of tradition, the complex web of obligations and expectations that governed every aspect of noble life. Ariel showed him around with a mix of pride and sadness. "This is where I grew up," she said, standing in a garden where flowers sang in harmonics. "It is beautiful, but it has always felt like a beautiful cage." He spent time with Serena too, though she kept things professional. She explained Laren politics, the competing houses, the delicate balance of power. She was brilliant and calculating, and he found himself oddly comfortable in her presence despite everything. On the 5th day, he called his parents on Earth. The conversation was awkward beyond measure. "So, let me get this straight," his father said. "You got an alien noble pregnant, and now you are thinking about marrying her and her mother. When you say it like that, it sounds crazy," Tammin admitted. His mother was more direct. "Do you love this girl?" "Yes. And the child. I want to protect them both. I want to be a father to this baby." "Then you know what you need to do?" his mother said simply. "The rest is just details." On the 7th day, Tammin gave Serena his answer. He would accept the bonding, all of it. But before the ceremony could be arranged, Lord Kalen of House Dravik arrived with a coalition of conservative nobles. They could not stop the bonding directly, but they could challenge it. They invoked ancient law. If Tammin wanted to join a noble house, he must prove his worth through the Crucible. The Crucible was a series of tests designed to evaluate a potential consort. Traditionally, these focused on genetic purity, psionic ability, and noble lineage, all things Tammin completely lacked. Serena smiled when she heard the challenge. She invoked her right as house matriarch to modify the tests. Instead of measuring Lycerin qualities, they would measure human strengths, adaptability, creative thinking, and emotional intelligence. The conservative nobles could not refuse without losing face. The first test was the Labyrinth of Adaptation. Tammin stood at the entrance to a massive holographic maze that shifted and changed every 30 seconds. Most license completed it through careful pattern analysis and long-term planning. Tammin threw pattern analysis out the window. When the walls shifted, he did not try to map them. He followed his gut, took risks that no logical being would consider, and somehow made it through. His time was not record-breaking, but his method shocked everyone watching. The second test was the Garden of Perspectives, a diplomatic simulation. He had to negotiate between 5 alien species with completely contradictory values and goals. Most Larans approached it through power dynamics and hierarchy. Tammin ignored hierarchy entirely. He focused on emotions, on finding common ground in fears and hopes rather than logic and law. He created a compromise that satisfied everyone, something the evaluator said had never happened before. The third test was the Mirror of Truth, a psionic evaluation that revealed the deepest parts of someone's character. License prepared for decades to control what the mirror showed, presenting their best and most noble selves. Tammin walked in with no preparation. The mirror showed everything: his fears, his doubts, his guilt about disrupting Ariel's life. It also showed his genuine love for her, his determination to be a good father, and his willingness to sacrifice his old life for this new one. The raw honesty was shocking to the listener and observers. Many had never seen someone so emotionally naked, but it proved beyond doubt that Tammin was hiding nothing, that his intentions were pure. Serena watched all 3 tests with intense focus. By the end, she was smiling. Lord Kalen tried to argue that Tammin had passed through chaos and emotion rather than proper logic and control, that this proved he was unsuitable. Serena stood before the assembled nobles. That is precisely the point. House Valinus chooses to embrace something different. For millennia, we have prized control, order, and genetic perfection. It has made us powerful, but it has also made us stagnant. This human brings chaos and passion and adaptability. These are not flaws. These are exactly what we need. The conservative faction grumbled, but they had no legal grounds to object. Tammin had passed their challenge, unconventional though his methods were. The bonding ceremony was scheduled for the following week. It would blend human and Lycerin traditions, witnessed by representatives from across the galaxy. The night before the ceremony, Tammin could not sleep. He stood on a balcony overlooking the estate gardens, watching 3 moons rise over alien trees. Ariel found him there. Her skin was warm gold in the moonlight. "Are you having second thoughts?" He smiled. "About 1,000 of them, but I am not changing my mind." She took his hand. "Thank you for choosing us." for being brave enough to do this impossible thing. I love you, he said simply. Everything else follows from that. Serena appeared from the shadows, making them both jump slightly. She was less formally dressed than usual, and in the moonlight, she looked younger, less intimidating. I wanted to speak with both of you before tomorrow, she said quietly. This arrangement began as political strategy. I will not lie about that, but I want you to know that I would not ask this of you if I did not believe it could be real. She looked at Tammin directly. You are not like anyone I have met in 5 centuries. You make me remember what it was like to feel things genuinely, before politics corrupted everything. I hope that whatever we build together, it can be more than just an alliance. Tammin saw a vulnerability in her eyes that he had never seen before. This powerful ancient being was as uncertain as he was. Somehow that made him feel better. We will figure it out together, he said. The ceremony the next day was magnificent and overwhelming. Tammin wore a blend of human formal wear and Laren's ceremonial garments. He bonded first with Ariel, in a ceremony that emphasized their existing love and their coming child. Then, in a separate but connected ceremony, he bonded with Serena, in an alliance that carried political weight but also personal promise. When it was over, he was officially part of House Valenus. Tammin Kang of Earth bonded to Lady Ariel and Duchess Serena, the first human to join Lycera nobility, the first step in changing 2 species forever. That night, in the private chambers of the estate, the 3 of them faced the reality of what they had become. A family unit that existed nowhere in human or Lycan tradition, built on necessity, but carrying the potential for something more. Serena poured crystal wine for all of them. 2 impossible choices, she said. Ariel raised her glass. To new beginnings. Tammin looked at them both. These 2 incredible women, who had chosen him, just as he had chosen them. To family, he said, however strange it looks. They drank, and the future spread before them, unknown, and full of possibility. The months after the bonding were strange, and wonderful, and terrifying all at once. Tammin moved into the Valenus estate fully. Though he kept his research position, his work became more important than ever, studying the hybrid pregnancy and documenting everything for scientific record. His relationship with Ariel deepened naturally. They were building a life together, preparing for their child. Her pregnancy progressed smoothly, and every scan showed a healthy, developing baby. They spent hours talking about names, about how to raise a child who would be both human and Lycran, about what kind of world they wanted to build. His relationship with Serena was more complicated. At first, they were formal with each other. 2 people bound by politics trying to figure out what they meant to each other. But slowly, things changed. She started asking his opinion on house business, not as formality, but genuinely. He found himself in strategy meetings, offering perspectives that her advisors never considered. His outsider view sometimes revealed solutions that centuries of tradition had hidden. Late one night, Tammin found Serena alone in the estate gardens. She looked tired, which was rare for her. Without thinking, he sat beside her. "Are you all right?" he asked. She looked at him with surprise, then smiled slightly. "No one asked me that. People assume I'm always in control, always strong. Everyone needs someone to ask," he said. They talked for hours that night. She told him about the weight of running House Valenus for decades, about losing her husband 50 years ago, about the loneliness of power. He listened without judgment, without trying to fix anything, just being present. Something shifted between them that night. The political arrangement started feeling like something real. The physical aspect of their bonding had been delayed by mutual uncertainty. But one evening after a formal dinner where Serena defended their union against subtle attacks from rival nobles, Tammin found her in her chambers, anger and frustration radiating from her. "You were magnificent tonight," he said. She turned, her skin flickering through shades of red and gold. "I am tired of defending our choice to small-minded fools." "Then stop defending and start living," he said. "Show them that what we have is real, not something that needs justification." She looked at him, really looked at him, and he saw the moment she decided to stop holding back. What followed was tentative at first, 2 people from different worlds learning each other, but the chemistry was undeniable. Serena discovered that intimacy, without political calculation, was something she had almost forgotten existed. This created new complications. Ariel struggled with jealousy. Intellectually, she understood the arrangement. Emotionally, Seeing her mother and Tommen growing genuinely close was harder than she expected. One afternoon, heavily pregnant and emotional, Ariel confronted them both. "I thought this was just politics. I thought it would stay separate. But you two are really connecting, and I do not know how to feel about that." Serena, for once, looked uncertain. She reached for her daughter's hand. "I did not plan for this. I thought I was too old, too cynical to feel genuine affection again. But he makes me remember what it was like to be young, to feel things deeply. I am sorry if that hurts you." Tammen sat between them. "I love you both in different ways, but both real. I know that is complicated. I know it is not what either of you expected, but I'm not going to apologize for caring about both of you." Ariel's skin shifted through confused colors. "I do not want you to apologize. I just need to figure out how to share you without feeling like I am losing you." They talked for hours, working through jealousy and fear and the strange reality they had created. It was messy and difficult, but they were honest with each other. That honesty became the foundation of something stronger. Meanwhile, external pressures mounted. House Dravik and allied conservative factions launched coordinated attacks. Nothing they could prove, but shipments went missing. Facilities were vandalized, and rumors spread that the hybrid pregnancy was doomed. Ambassador Park faced pressure from Earth as well. Some politicians saw Tammen as a liability, others as humanity's greatest asset. The debates were fierce and public. Then 3 weeks early, Ariel went into labor. The medical team scrambled. Dr. Nar worked alongside Lyceran physicians, all of them concerned. The hybrid nature of the baby created complications no one had fully anticipated. Labor was difficult, dangerous. Tommen held Ariel's hand while Serena coordinated with the medical team. For hours, the outcome was uncertain. All the politics, all the grand plans, meant nothing in that moment. They just needed this baby to survive. Serena, usually so controlled, showed genuine fear. Not for political implications, but for her daughter and grandchild. Tammen saw her mask crack completely, and loved her more for her vulnerability. Finally, after what felt like forever, a baby's cry filled the room. The medical team worked quickly, checking vitals, running scans. Then, Dr. Nara looked up with tears in her eyes and smiled. "She is perfect," Nara said, "completely healthy." They named her Dion. She was beautiful, with human features softened by hints of Lyceran grace. Her skin had a faint iridescent shimmer, and her eyes were large and curious. The medical data confirmed she carried the best traits of both species, healthy and thriving. The birth was broadcast across the Empire. Millions watched as the impossible became real. A healthy, humanly Saran hybrid, proof that the two species could create new life together. That night, with Ariel recovering and baby Dawn sleeping, Tammen stood in the garden with Serena. She was quieter than usual, processing everything. "That was the most frightened I have been in a century," she admitted. "When I thought we might lose them both, I realized how much this has become real for me. Not just politics, not just strategy." Real Tammen took her hand. "It is real for me too." She looked at him in the moonlight. This human who had disrupted her carefully planned life and somehow made it better. Then she told him something she had been holding back for weeks. "I am pregnant," she said quietly. Tammen stared at her, the words not processing immediately. "At my age, Lyceran pregnancy is extremely rare. I did not think it was possible, but the tests are clear. I am carrying your child." She looked both terrified and exhilarated. This was not part of the plan. This was real, unplanned, dangerous, and she wanted it more than she had wanted anything in decades. Tammen pulled her close, feeling her tremble slightly. "We will face it together. All of us do. 2 hybrid pregnancies, 2 impossibilities made real. The conservative faction would lose their minds. The Empire would be forced to acknowledge that humans were not primitive contamination, but genuine partners. Everything was about to change again. But standing there with Serena, knowing Ariel and baby Dion were safe inside, Tammen felt something he had not felt in months. Hope. News of Serena's pregnancy spread like fire through the Empire. A duchess conceiving naturally at nearly 500 years old was already shocking. A duchess conceiving with a human was unprecedented. The conservative faction saw it as proof of their worst fears. House Valinus was being contaminated by primitive genetics. But an unexpected voice entered the debate. Emperor Theron himself summoned Duchess Serena and Tammen to the imperial capital on Lycera Prime. The journey was Tammon's first time leaving Helios Prime since his arrival years ago. The Lasan homeworld took his breath away. A planet-spanning city of impossible architecture, buildings that flowed like frozen water, gardens that floated in mid-air. The wealth and power on display was humbling. The imperial palace made the Valinus estate look modest by comparison. They were escorted through halls that had witnessed thousands of years of history, past guards and ceremonial armor that could probably destroy a small army. The throne room was filled with nobles, most radiating disapproval. Lord Kalen and his allies stood prominently, clearly expecting the Emperor to condemn House Valinus. Emperor Theron was ancient, over 1,200 years old, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. He studied Tammin with curiosity rather than judgment. "So you are the human who accomplished the impossible twice," the Emperor said. His voice was surprisingly gentle. "You impregnated a Lycer and Noble through natural means, something our scientists declared impossible. Then you did it again, with one of our most powerful duchesses. That is either extraordinary luck or extraordinary compatibility." "Probably both, Your Majesty," Tammin said, earning a surprised laugh from the Emperor. Theron's expression turned serious. "I have ruled this empire for 3 centuries. I have watched our population decline, our genetic diversity collapse, our culture stagnate. We have become so obsessed with perfection that we have bred ourselves into a corner. Meanwhile, younger species like humanity thrive through chaos and diversity." He gestured at baby Dunn, whom Ariel held carefully. "Your daughter is proof that we can revitalize ourselves without losing who we are. But I need more proof. If I endorse this program officially, I need certainty that hybrid offspring will thrive, not just survive." The Emperor's terms were clear. Serena's pregnancy must result in a healthy child. Both children must show no genetic instabilities over the next year. If they thrived, he would formally endorse human bonding and give House Valinus authority to establish guidelines for future unions. If there were serious complications, the program would end, and existing hybrid offspring would face an uncertain future. They had 1 year to prove this could work. Lord Kalen and his faction realized they were losing the political battle. If the Emperor endorsed the program, their influence would collapse. They decided that if they could not win politically, they would win through force. The first assassination attempt came during a state dinner. Advanced weapons, sophisticated planning, clearly involving resources only noble houses could access. The attack targeted Tammin specifically. Remove him and the entire arrangement would collapse. The Imperial Guard stopped the attack, but the message was clear. Some nobles preferred to risk treason rather than accept change. The Emperor authorized enhanced security. Commander Smaun Park arrived with a detachment of human special forces. Their presence on Lycera Prime was controversial but effective. Human soldiers might be technologically inferior, but their tactical creativity and adaptability impressed even skeptical Lycians. Serena's pregnancy progressed under intense medical monitoring. Every scan was analyzed for signs of genetic instability. The pressure was enormous. She was not just carrying a child, but the future of 2-species relationship. The stress brought Tammin, Ariel, and Serena closer together. Life and death stakes stripped away remaining pretenses. One evening, after particularly hostile questioning from Imperial investigators, Serena broke down in front of them both. "I am scared," she admitted, something she had never said before. "Not of politics or assassination attempts. I am scared of being a mother again at my age. Scared of failing this child, scared of caring so much when I thought I was beyond such feelings." Tammin held her while Ariel took her hand. "We are all scared," Ariel said softly, "but we face it together." They talked through the night about their strange family, about love and fear, about the weight they all carried. Ariel and Serena, mother and daughter, co-spouses to the same man, found understanding they had never achieved before. The situation was unconventional, but it was theirs, and they would make it work. The second assassination attempt came 6 months later. It was more sophisticated, a coordinated strike on the Valinese estate, using military weapons. The attackers infiltrated deep into the compound before being detected. The battle was brief, but intense. Commander Smaun's forces worked with Valinus guards to repel the attackers. Tammin, despite being the primary target, fought to protect Ariel and baby Dion. He was no soldier, but desperation made him fierce. Serena, pregnant but far from helpless, personally eliminated one attacker with combat skills that reminded everyone she had not gained her position. Through politics alone, she was a warrior when she needed to be. The attack failed, but its sophistication pointed to Highley conspiracy. The Emperor's investigators traced it back to Lord Kalin and 3 other noble houses. In ancient Lysan tradition, attacking an imperial-sanctioned bonding was treason punishable by death or exile. The trial was swift. House Dravik and its allies were stripped of rank and assets. Lord Kalin faced exile to a remote colony world, effectively a death sentence for a noble whose entire identity was tied to status and power. The conservative faction was decimated. Its leaders were disgraced, its followers scattered. Opposition to human Lysuran bonding did not disappear, but it lost its organized force. 3 weeks after the trial, Serena went into labor. Like Ariel's delivery, it was complicated by the hybrid nature of the child. But this time, the medical teams were better prepared. They knew what to expect, how to handle the unique challenges. Still, the hours were tense. Serena's age made the pregnancy riskier. Tumman stayed with her throughout, holding her hand, being the anchor she needed. Ariel was there too, supporting her mother through every contraction. Finally, a baby's cry filled the medical bay. A son, healthy and perfect. They named him Jinho. He was beautiful, bearing marks of both parents, was undeniably viable. His skin had the same faint shimmer as his half-sisters, and his eyes were curious and bright. The medical data was immediately transmitted to Imperial evaluators. 2 healthy hybrid children thriving without complications, the proof the Emperor needed. That evening, Emperor Theron himself came to visit the newborn. It was an unprecedented gesture, the ruler of the Laren Empire coming personally to see a hybrid child. He held baby Jinho carefully, studying the infant with wonder. "I have lived 12 centuries," he said quietly. "I have seen empires rise and fall, but I have never seen anything quite like this. New life, new possibilities, new hope for species I thought were beyond hope." He looked at Tammin, Ariel, and Serena. "You have done something remarkable. Not just creating hybrid children, but building a family that works, despite every reason it should not. That is the real achievement." The Emperor made his announcement the next day. He formally endorsed humanly Lysaran bonding. House Valencius would have authority to establish guidelines for future unions. The program was official, backed by imperial decree. What began as a scandal had become imperial policy. What started as an accident had changed the course of 2 species forever. That night, Tammin stood in the nursery, watching both his children sleep. Dawn, 6 months old, already showing signs of her curious nature. Jinho, newborn and perfect, breathing peacefully. Ariel and Serena joined him, one on each side. "We did it," Ariel whispered. "We actually did it." Serena smiled, looking younger than Tammin had ever seen her. "We did more than survive. We built something beautiful." Tammin looked at his family, this impossible collection of people who had become his whole world. A year ago, he was a lonely scientist. Now he was a father, a husband twice over, a bridge between species. The future stretched before them, full of challenges, but also incredible possibility. 5 years passed. The Valinus estate had transformed from a traditional Laren noble compound into something entirely new. Playground where children of various species played together. Research facilities where human and Lysaran scientists collaborated. A home that blended 2 cultures seamlessly. Dune was 5 years old now, brilliant and endlessly curious. She spoke Korean and High Lysaran with equal fluency, comfortable in both heritages. Her skin shimmered more strongly when she was excited, and her human expressiveness combined with Lysser and grace made her captivating. Jinho was 4, quieter than his sister, but showing signs of unusual intuition. He seemed to understand what people were feeling before they spoke. A blend of human emotional intelligence and Lyser and psionic sensitivity. Both children were healthy, thriving, under constant but unobtrusive scientific observation. They were not specimens, but proof of concept for peaceful integration between species. In 5 years, the galactic landscape had shifted dramatically. The success of the Valenus Kang family had inspired 12 other human Lysaran bondings, all carefully monitored, but thus far successful. Human status in the Galactic Council had elevated significantly. No longer dismissed as primitives, Humanity was recognized as bringing valuable diversity to ancient civilizations. House Valenius had become the most powerful noble house in the empire, not through military conquest or political scheming, but through successful innovation. Other houses seeing results had begun opening to hybrid partnerships, though none as dramatically as Vallis. Lyceran birth rates had shown their first increase in 5 centuries. The genetic diversity being reintroduced was having effects beyond just numbers. Lyceran science and culture were experiencing a renaissance as new perspectives merged with ancient knowledge. Tammin had grown into his role. Now 33, he was no longer the naive scientist who stumbled into this situation. He was a respected figure bridging 2 species, teaching others about inter-species relations. But he had managed to keep his core humanity through everything, never losing himself to politics. Ariel had found her own identity beyond being a rebel daughter or political spouse. She had become a powerful advocate for hybrid children, establishing educational frameworks that honored both their heritages. Her relationship with Tammin had matured into deep partnership built on years of shared challenges. Serena, now 492, had experienced something she thought impossible: genuine happiness. Her love for Tammin was no longer something she rationalized or hid. Her position in the empire was unassailable, freeing her to focus on family rather than constant political maneuvering. She even showed public displays of affection now, shocking those who remembered her cold reputation. The 3-way relationship had settled into comfortable dynamics. They maintained separate quarters but shared family spaces. Ariel and Serena had developed their own friendship beyond being co-spouses, supporting each other in ways that surprised everyone. The children benefited from having 3 parents with different strengths. One afternoon, Diane came to Tammin with questions that had clearly been building for a while. She sat beside him in the garden, her skin flickering uncertainly. "Papa," she said, "am I human or Lyceran?" Tammin put down the datapad he had been reading. "What do you think you are?" She frowned, her skin shifting through confused colors. "The human children at the embassy say, I am too alien. The Laren children at court say, I am too human. I do not fit anywhere." Tammin pulled her close. "You know what I think? I think being caught between worlds is not a weakness. It is a strength. You can understand both sides in ways pure humans and pure Lysans never could. You are a bridge, and bridges are important. But I want to belong somewhere," she said quietly. "You belong with us," Ariel said, joining them in the garden. "You belong with your family. And someday, you will help build a place where children like you and Jinyo do not have to choose sides. They can just be themselves." Serena arrived as well, moving with the grace she had never lost. "Your mother is right. You are not between worlds, Dawn. You are the beginning of something new, something better than what came before." Dion looked at her 3 parents, considering their words. Then she smiled, her skin brightening to warm gold. "I am going to be a bridge when I grow up, a really good one." That evening, a summit was held at the Valenia estate. The 12 human Lyceran families gathered bringing their children. The adults discussed the future, while the children played together in ways that would have been unthinkable just years ago. Something new was emerging, not human, not Luceran, but a synthesis that might become its own culture someday. Emperor Theron made one final visit to House Valenus. He was visibly aged now, even by Laren standards. In private conversation with Tammin, he admitted that this outcome exceeded his hopes. "I worried the experiment might succeed biologically, but fail culturally." The Emperor said that hybrid children would be permanent outsiders. Instead, they are thriving and leading cultural change. "You have given my empire something I thought we had lost forever: a future." He revealed his final decision. When he eventually passed, succession laws would be modified to allow human Lyceran hybrids to inherit noble titles without qualification. Dawn and children like her would be able to inherit their positions fully. This represented a fundamental transformation of Laren society. The old order was changing, making room for something new. Tommen received word from Earth. His work had inspired humanity across multiple colonies. Cross-species integration programs were being established on dozens of worlds. Humanity was becoming known, not for military might or technological advancement, but for their ability to form genuine connections across species barriers. That evening, as the 3 moons rose over Helios Prime, the family gathered in the garden. Tammin, Ariel, and Serena, watched their children play among plants from both Earth and Lara, species that somehow thrive together. Dune asked a question that made all three adults pause. Why did humans and Lycerans wait so long to meet each other? Tommen considered carefully. Sometimes the right connections happen at the right time. Humans needed to develop their own identity before they could truly share it with others. And Lycerans needed to reach a point where they could accept change. Serena added in a rare philosophical moment, perhaps every species goes through cycles, beginning in chaos, achieving order, then needing to rediscover chaos before stagnation sets in. Humans brought back the creative chaos we had lost. Ariel smiled. What matters is not the politics or theories. What matters is that our family is happy and our children are healthy. Everything else is just commentary. Tammen looked at them. These two incredible women who had chosen him just as he had chosen them. At their children playing without awareness of how impossible they were supposed to be. At a future that spread before them, uncertain, but full of possibility. An accidental pregnancy had become a diplomatic revolution. A scandal had become a renaissance. Three people from impossible backgrounds had built something unprecedented. A genuinely happy family that changed two species forever. 20 years later, Dune stood before the Galactic Council as head of House Valenus. Serena had passed peacefully 2 years earlier, having lived long enough to see her grandchildren become leaders. Dune was proposing a new initiative, a formal cross-species integration academy, to facilitate peaceful integration across the galaxy. Her brother Jinho stood beside her as chief scientific advisor. Both had inherited the best of their parents, human adaptability and passion, combined with Lisser and wisdom and grace. Tammen and Ariel watched from the gallery, now elder statesmen of the movement they had accidentally started. Gray touched Tammen's hair and Ariel's skin had developed the deep platinum shade of mature Larans, but they still held hands like young lovers. As the council debated, representatives from dozens of species voiced their support. Many were in cross-species partnerships themselves. Inspired by the original Valinus Kang family, the initiative passed with overwhelming support. What began as one human scientist's unexpected connection with an alien noblewoman had become a galactic movement toward integration and mutual enrichment. That evening, Tammen and Ariel stood on their balcony, watching ships come and go from the spaceport. The same view where everything had started decades ago. Do you ever regret it? Ariel asked softly. Taking that chance all those years ago? Tammen pulled her close. Not for a single moment. Best mistake I ever made. She laughed, her skin shimmering gold in the fading light. It was not a mistake, it was fate, dressed up as chance. Maybe it was both, or maybe it did not matter. What mattered was what they had built from that one night. A family, a future, a bridge between worlds. Humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy was not technology or military might. It was the idea that difference could be celebrated rather than merely tolerated, that the space between species could become a bridge rather than a barrier. And it all started with a lonely scientist, an unhappy noblewoman, and one night that changed everything.